Oh, right, yeah, finish off this. These things is actually because this is the same thing John Wedge was on. I have to look up see if we can find more people's things. ITNJ, yeah. Let's go.
Afterwards, it was just a part of the game to have an economic war from Russia, USSR in that time, with America. And in the opposite way, they did the same. But I didn't know that in that time. So as a youngster, like 24, 25, I was already messing around with economic wars worldwide. So after all these assignments, they start to spot you. Like, hey, here's a bright guy. He's always knowing his way, like hustling here, hustling there, playing with the rules. And then they start to invite you more and more for higher assignments. Then you start to work for banks, independent. You're doing the dirty work for central banks, for multinationals, for governments, for what they call now terrorist organizations, and all secret services. Hey, secret services? Yes. And then on top, like the peach or the fruit of the cake, churches. Wow, you get the whole palette where the money floats, the big money. And you get the invitation to join in these circles to move all the money they want to move worldwide. To start wars, to start all the misery in this planet. Because there is nearly no misery on this planet in a natural way. It's most of them is created because they keep the system running because it's a dualistic system. They make the money only because when it's dualistic. And if we have all the ships, these energy containers they use only to suck, if they are asleep, fine, you can do whatever you want. This is also...
It's funny because it's kind of what well, I mean Louis C.K.'s got a bit on it, but you listen to the Bible and say like the bit in Matthew where it says, "Don't worry about money. Don't worry about like feeding yourself tomorrow. God takes care of all the animals. Are you not valued more than the animals? What makes you think God isn't going to feed you?" But then you look how institutions have monopolized even things like water. You pay for water, literally the most essential human need, water. And like that they've monopolized that, they've monopolized money, that you can't go and hunt anymore. People don't grow things no more. People don't have this information no more. And plus they want it all neatly packed into a Burger King. Like yeah. But Cat Williams has a bit of it as well. It's like, you're gonna tell me God don't exist, then look at the chicken. He's like, the chicken is the most delicious of all the birds, and that bitch can't fly. It's like, tell me there ain't a God. That tell me that Jesus cares about your food. He cares about your dinner. Like, yeah.
mentality of the elite. Well, they are not elite. They are not elite. The people I worked for in the end of the days, you're talking roughly about 8,500 people on this world who run the show. And they are like who I was, completely afraid, nearly dead, filling up the holes daily, never enough, surfing the monster of greed, the monster of more. And there comes Lucifer in the end. Because we are talking here about interdimensional things. This 8,500 became my friends because it was really coming home. first time in my life I start to be with humans who understand me and I understood them. Because most of them were going through the same hell. They did it in a different way, different bloodlines, but they have also a lot of misery in their lives. Electric caves are a normal thing in the education of this kind of societies. This is not about humans. This is about a very evil dark force who really enjoy to destroy all life on this planet, and it's still on. And I was enjoying them as well. I really, and I don't say it with regret because I'm going back now in time, otherwise it's a fake. I really enjoyed it to have the opportunity to destroy all humans and all life on earth. Nature was nothing. It was to be destroyed. We were hating everything what represent life, what represent the creator of heaven and earth. Don't take this very light. You can't imagine, I understand that, not all can understand this, but this is going on till today.
It's funny as well because there's a Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones has some very deep concepts built into it, but one of them, it says that in it, Varys and Littlefinger. When someone says you're friends with Littlefinger, says to Varys, you're friends with Littlefinger. Why are you always trying to stop his thing? And he says because if he says he will burn the Seven Kingdoms to the ground if it meant he could be king of the ashes. And I think there's a lot of people in the world that have that, especially towards Western civilization. But it is they want to destroy it just so they like, and they're willing to have everything fall apart just so they can, be crowned king of whatever remains after.
In the end, because I can give you all the details about everything I did in this world, like indirectly I was killing people. Like you are in a stealth bomber, dropping bombs. I did this financial wise as missions, like destroying temporarily the economy of Italian. And then later on, when you are in the financial market, you listen to the people who are involved and they have a big laugh because some people were killing themselves because their companies were destroyed and they left behind women with children. And we have only a laugh about it. We joined it. That's the world I come out. My turning point was that I was so good in everything I did with my team that I was, in their opinion, ready for the last stage to be invited and sacrifice of children. That hits me. That was really going through my bunker. I couldn't handle it. It was hitting me like hell. I didn't go there. And I started to malfunction. And my whole career falls apart. Then, because I go briefly to this one, because you also can see my interviews, they notice this. Then they start to take me out of the system for a while, start torturing me. And they want, because everything was in offshore, they want everything back, because I own them, because I made everything through them. And they kept reminding me on the contract I signed. I didn't sign with blood. If I was signing with blood, that was the next stage, I was dead already. But this was a sort of gentleman.
You think in what he's saying there as well, it doesn't necessarily mean signing in blood in terms of pricking your finger and doing your signature, but signing in blood in terms of doing something horrendous like a child sacrifice or some type of abuse to a child or something like that, where you say metaphorically you have blood on your hands. Well, not metaphorically in terms of the sacrifice, but yeah. But then once you're in, you are then bound, but literally by blood. Yeah.
And I still keep it, and I always keep it, about not mentioning names of persons, companies, and so on. And I'm a man of word. If I give my word, I will give my word forever. And if it's in the dark side or in the light side, doesn't matter for me. So I came out, finally, and you can see it in the interviews. And then, on the end, my body was breaking down, heart attack, hospital, and then I have also out of body experience again, to see what they were doing with me, and then back in the body. The first thing I saw was my mother crying, like he is alive again. Then I ran through several private hospitals for a year to recover of all the damage. Even have to set my back straight again. Then I was for another 8 years completely off the screen, hiding in several countries on fake identities. And after the period of 9 years, because even we have the agreements, even I gave them all what they want, I was still afraid, because
You think as well, it's all it was that they read that he wasn't into it and he wasn't going to go along with the child abuse. And that's when you see the undercover, like in our country, the undercover paedophiles. They infiltrate paedophile rings, but they're police officers. But that's part of their job. Their job is they have to sit and watch child abuse or look at child abuse pictures and videos to the point where they don't have an obvious reaction to it, because these types of people are so tuned into and they will see, because the natural person, when shown a yeah kid porn, they're like, obviously you're gonna have an instant disgust reaction and they will pick up on that straight away. So you think of that, undercover police have to sit there and look at all these things to the point where it doesn't actually have an effect, so that when they are shown it by a pedo that they're trying to undercover around, they never notice that, like, you're not actually into it.
promised me to kill the whole bloodline. So my wife and my children in that time were also escaping, also hiding, but separate from me. So in 9 years being undercover completely, out of that experience, I noticed how it is to miss your children. It's horrible to have a child dead, but not knowing where your child is a bit more torture. So after 11 years, finally I met my oldest son in that time, and I was recovering, and I started to build up a relation with life. I started to study in theologic way, studying the Quran, the Torah, the so-called Bible, because that's more or less document. There are some satanic pieces involved. And I start to meet the creator of heaven and earth, and that saves my life, because he was the first one who really, really loves me. And that gives me the enlightenment to continue life, because my first act of love was the real desire to kill myself. That was my first act of love, the first signal I was in a transition from death to alive. I want to kill myself.
It's a bit like when Jesus goes into that town and someone's possessed by demons, and Jesus casts them out and puts them into pigs, and the pigs run straight off a cliff. Their first instinct is to just, kill themselves.
in favor of humans and life. So that was my first act of life, of love. So this involves more and more to be a social entrepreneur till the day as now it is. And the last point I want to give you is, if we want to have liberation, don't look at outside anymore. Don't look at outside anymore. The change will be from inside. We, the people on this planet, have to choose different, saying we don't want this anymore. It's enough. We can decide for ourselves to stand up, to be as one again, unity and diversity, and we can cooperate worldwide with each other. And tools for this are there, because one of the main tools you need to transform is the financial, monetary, banking system I was coming out. The tools are available, like healthcare, energy, everything is already available on this planet. The only thing we have to do is connect with each other, unite with each other worldwide, and say no more. Stand up, be the change yourself. And we will be liberating ourselves and our planet.
But this is where, as well, and I disagree with what he said about the Quran. I don't know how he could say the Quran and the Torah and then the so-called Bible. The Bible, well, half of it is the Torah, and the New Testament tallies up with the Torah. The Quran doesn't. The Quran is like someone basing a book off the Torah and the New Testament without reading it. So I don't know where he gets that thing from. But also, if you listen to the Bible, they have the Tower of Babel, where humans all spoke the same language, come together and was building a tower to the heavens. God looked and said, if these people can come together and do this, they can come together and do literally anything. So there he made different languages, and then Babel comes from it. The whole global communication thing is not God's not God's plan.
And I can promise you, really promise you, because I have still a lot of contacts worldwide, the most still in the prison system, the dark forces around them, they are screaming because their child inside of this atomic bunker wants to go out in a safe world. And we can create this safe world for these heavily damaged children. So thank you.
And that's the thing, really. Despite everything he said, that's ultimately what he is too. A heavily damaged child. Really. I mean, I think all of us have that to a certain extent with um the separation of from the pure childhood you to who you are now. But then if you've had that, like, that pure childhood you robbed, it's like, yeah, it doesn't matter how grown you get. I mean, like, even with things you hear all the time with people that say were bullied at school or something, and they'd be like in their 60s, see the men or like that used to bully them at school and won't walk past them, where they still hold that same fear and as they did it when they were a kid. Your childhood is very, so yeah, to all of us it plays a part, but when you're damaged like he was damaged as a child, and yeah, I couldn't imagine that. And like I say, Every what's the saying? It doesn't matter how your parents raise you. Your parents mess you up as a kind of just because no one's perfect. They're not perfect people. They're gonna pass on their imperfections. It's just like, but yeah, when you see these stories of these people that their just parents was, yeah, awful, and they never really, they're always still. It's like even some of our most violent criminals. Part of the reason why they're violent criminals, because really, deep down in them, they're still a frightened child hiding under the bed from their dad or whatever, and they put on this big violent thing because the way they work it out is that once you hurt people, people don't hurt you as much, right? But all it is they're defending that inner damaged child of them still with this thing that they're violent and blah 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 blah. But really, all it is protecting a the damaged child. But yeah, yeah. Like I said, I disagree with his Quran interpretation because I mean, if you're going to talk about something being demonic, I don't see how you can say the Quran and the Hadiths aren't when you have Muhammad raping a 9 year old. They say, well, it was consensual because they got married. It's like you can't consensually marry and, yeah, with a 9 year old. Yeah. And then you'll get some Muslim scholars that say, no, no, actually, there's no real telling of her age, even though there is. But it also says that at one point Aisha talks to Muhammad, that's the 9 year old. It says in the Quran that Aisha's playing with dolls. In Islam, only children can play with dolls. Otherwise, if you play with them when you're an adult, it's idol worship. You're not allowed to have dolls and things like this. So the fact that it specifically says in the Quran Aisha was playing with dolls proves the fact that she was a child. And it wasn't a marriage, even if you want to say, no, it was a marriage to a 9 year old. Well, it wasn't. Muhammad killed, basically conquered her people, killed her family and that, and then took her. Took her at 6, married, and consummated the marriage at 9. I don't know how you can sit there and say that the Quran, that the Bible's satanic when, yeah, the Quran has that in it. The Quran has a thing where if anybody who is a Muslim who becomes not a Muslim should be killed for it. Like if you and there's 7 major schools of Islam and they all teach killing people that leave the religion. Basically, if you're a Muslim and you leave, any Muslim at any point could just come and stick you for it. Like, yeah, I don't see how you can sit and say that the Bible is satanic, and especially when you compare the Quran to the Torah. Because if you're going to say the Quran is true, then the Quran says Christians should judge using the gospel because Jews and Christians go to Muhammad and ask for his judgment on something. And he says, what are you coming to me for? If you're a Christian, use the Gospels. If you're a Jew, use the Torah. And if you're a Muslim, use the Quran. All right, well, by that. And it also says, Muhammad says, I'm here to affirm and confirm the previous texts, the Torah and the New Testament, the Torah and the Bible. That's what he's talking about. Which, if that's true, that means the Torah and the Bible are true. If the Torah and the Bible are true, the Quran isn't true. The Quran says Jesus didn't die on the cross. Obviously, the Bible does, but not only the Bible. In fact, atheist scholars will say if there's one thing we know about Jesus' life is that he died on the cross. You want to get into the miracles and say you don't believe in them, you don't believe he come back 3 days later. Oh, that's fair. I'll take that. We don't live in a supernatural believing world. I can appreciate that. However, any atheist scholar, history scholar, will tell you that arguably the most documented thing in ancient times, one is Jesus's life, but is the crucifixion. Like even non-Christian historical scholars will tell you, yeah, definitely Jesus died on the cross under Pontius Pilate. The Quran says he didn't, so therefore the Quran's wrong. But the Quran says it's here to confirm the previous scriptures, even though it doesn't. It's wrong in everywhere. They haven't. Basically, yeah, like I say, it's a guy who made a religion off the back of the Torah and the Bible that um, had clearly never read the Torah or the Bible. And also, Muhammad, you want to look up Muhammad's, I think it's his first interaction with Gabriel. That's who Muhammad is talking to most of. Go and read Muhammad's first experience with Gabriel. Basically, Gabriel, he said he attacked him and was choking him, and that doesn't sound. That is not that. And again, that's what I mean. That doesn't act like any angel. No angel does that throughout any other book in the thing. Attacks someone and chokes them, and basically Muhammad's having a fit on the thing, and then afterwards he has this thing where he spoke to Gabriel. Never has an angel attacked someone and choked them, and that sounds more like a demon was going into you more than the angel Gabriel. But anyway, that's the reaction. Sweet.